So, Steve, welcome to episode 8
Thanks for having me, John.
of the Cornermen podcast. You'll keep getting invited back, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got to be doing something right when nobody else is available, ever.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking about things that kind of help you through life, things that help you, navigate life and especially the storms of life. And then I wanted to talk today about, again, 2 related subjects, which are fear and doubt, and how we deal with those.
Yeah.
And I just thought there's something we haven't touched on yet. I think it comes up a lot. I think people, suffer from self-doubt, which leads to self-sabotage and fear. And I think fear at the moment, there's a lot of fear around, I think, at the moment. I'm now calling on my long life, but there seems to be a lot of fear, a lot of fearful people, a lot of people shouting in the streets for this, that and the other. And I always think whenever I see someone shouting, maybe this comes from the boxing background, when you see someone shouting and jumping up and down, they're scared. People might say they're just angry, but I think they're scared. And that's why it comes out. The person you've got to watch is the person that's just quietly confident, because those are the dangerous ones.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Jumping up and shouting, and it's
a lot of motivation has come from fear of something changing, fear of something. So I think you're probably right. I'm angry.
Yeah. Well, also I think in somebody else I was talking to the other day, we're talking about the news cycle. And, people say now the news is unrelentingly dreadful, the news is unrelentingly terrible. But it kind of always has been.
Yeah. But it's not always been 24 hours.
No, but the thing is, the way we're programmed to look up information. So, for example, if I say to you, listen, there were loads of people down by the river the other day.
What?
They were having They were having a great time, really enjoying themselves. You weren't there. And that, you think, oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'll log that bit of information because it may be useful if I want to go to the river and have a good time. But if I say, and then one guy got eaten by a crocodile, you're like, what happened with the crocodile? Tell me about the crocodile. What happened? So he died. The crocodile ate him. So, but your brain is programmed to pick up on that bad news because that's a survival mechanism. Because actually, all that information about people enjoying themselves by the river could be useful, but the information about the crocodile could be vital.
I would argue very vital.
Yes. So our brains pick up on the bad news. Yes. We're going, what's that? Yeah. So therefore, when you look at the news cycle, the worse the news, in a way, the more you're going to be interested in it. So all the news media are competing for your attention. So therefore, if they can come up with the really bad stuff, you're going to hook into that and go, right, this is really terribly dangerous.
Don't algorithms play into effect as well? So the more you're looking at it, the computer or whatever just thinks, oh, well, this is what this guy's into. So it throws you more and more.
Well, I think by that token, you could then only look at good news and nice things, and then you might get more and more of that. But I don't know if that works. But so we are generally programmed to go for that bad. So we're fear is an integral part of our survival mechanism. It's there for a reason. And it's often quite healthy. And as you say, it's often quite motivating. But I just think we're at quite a fearful time in society at the moment. And while I don't really want to talk about general society, it feeds into the individual circumstances and stories that we are hearing in the service. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Not even in life, really. I think, what we see in the service is not the reflection of something that's happening in this one small group. I think in life, people are much more fearful, and the service and all the issues we see spread out. I think we're encouraging men who have trouble sort of getting into services or we're encouraging their side. But, I think you're right. Fear plays a lot of part in everybody's life. I always think it's a difficult one because to a certain extent, like all these things we talk about, you need a little bit of it.
Yes, it's vital.
Like you were describing, you don't want to be jumping in. So, it's how much it affects you and what you do with it.
Yeah, and I think the fear we want to talk about in a way, I mean, if we say fear is kind of ubiquitous, it's hardwired into us and it's necessary. It's how you control that to actually make it useful rather than make it crippling. And, and the subject today is fear and doubt, and they cross over very succinctly. I mean, fear leads to doubt and doubt in yourself.
I would be my worry. But do you think sometimes people see fear as a kind of weakness? People don't want to pretend. They don't want to admit they're fearful.
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of that, and I think that's why you see a lot of people jumping up and down the street at the moment.
Yeah,
because they don't want to admit they're fearful. They want to project strength.
Yeah, and some people think they're justified in their fear because they're I found something else out that you don't know that I can see. Yeah, and only me and my group can see this, and you idiots can't. Well,
often strength is an antidote to fear.
Yeah.
So if you say, look, I'm really strong, I'm big, I can handle this fear.
Yeah.
I'm not scared. I'm just I'm ready to fight. Yeah. Then that's kind of antidote to fear, and that's what people come up with.
I would argue that there's probably not a great what's the word I'm looking for? people who represent, or there's no great kind of people saying masculinity's, there's part of fear in masculinity. It's okay to be scared.
Yeah.
Because when we were talking about, one of the great examples I always had of kind of, it's okay to be scared was my grandfather. Because this was a man that was on the first wave at D-Day.
Yeah.
And he was always, in all of his stories, he never told me about how, it was always how scared he was.
Yeah.
And how scared everybody was.
Yeah.
So I really value that, okay, well, there's this guy I think that is tough. He's a tough guy, but, sometimes you're scared.
Well, a lot of fighters talk about that as well. I mean, for example, Nigel Benn, who's one of those fighters who just looks so at home in the ring, if you like, that you think, well, he's not scared because Nigel just comes in and knocks everyone out.
Yeah.
Or Mike Tyson is another one. They both talked about fear. I mean, especially Nigel used to talk about fear quite openly during his career.
Yeah.
And say, I want to be scared. I want to be a bit scared of the guy. If I'm not scared of him, it won't motivate me to train. And if I'm not scared of him, I won't be absolutely on my A game when I get in there. So I need to be scared. I need that fear. But that's controlling the fear.
And learning over to overcome it is a sense of achievement, surely, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I was scared to do that, and I did it.
Well, also interestingly, and I know this, this is because we're a support service based in a boxing club, so it does take over the conversation sometimes. But Tyson didn't talk about fear at the time. But Tyson was a very, very scary fighter, and he worked on that intimidation factor, which was huge with Tyson. And he really worked on it, exaggerated it, and used it to great effect. But later in his career, or after his career was over, and they said, look, there's all these like knockouts. You came out like a bullet again. You came flying out, and hardly anybody got through the first 3 rounds. Interesting, if you could get out of the first 3 rounds, that was the key to ever beating Tyson. But getting out of the first 3 rounds was very, very, very difficult. But he said, well, I was scared to death. He said, I was just so scared all the time that I just wanted to get the guys out of it, get out of there. Yeah. And the quickest way to get out of there was to knock them out. And so, and it would stop my fear. So it was obviously a big motivating factor for him. Oddly enough, he was projecting confidence and instilling fear because of the fact that he was feeling fear.
Well, I think, one of the common, I wouldn't say all, but some of the common denominators of people who've come and use the service, or in life who, on the surface, they seem very, very tough and aggressive, and fight a lot. Maybe often, what I found is they'll explain when they were children, they were very terrified of a figure in their house. Fear was installed in them straight off.
Well, Lenny McLean, very interesting example. Obviously, very intimidating, scary man. But talked about his childhood, terribly, terribly bullied by a stepfather. I mean, horrible, hung out of windows. Beaten. Yeah. And he turns up to, this bloke always used to shout at him, apparently, I'm the governor, I'm the governor. And then, of course, he became the governor. Yeah. The ultimate governor. So, as a way to combat that internal fear.
So it's quite surprising when you see these guys, you look at and you think, fucking hell, a bit tasty. But actually there's this kind of, look, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I learned to do it because I was scared and I was terrified of my stepfather or whatever. And, and so, fear plays a big part, I think, in all our lives for quite, understandable reasons. It shapes us, really, what we're scared of. People have different fears, don't they? We're scared to leave, people fearful to leave a job or leave a relationship. So, fear really can, like you say, there's that motivating side of it. There's also that it can hinder.
Yes, I think a little bit of fear. I think everybody would say a little bit of being kind of scared of something.
Well, it's excitement as well, isn't it?
I always say that as well. When I used to sort of challenge myself, or I still do with the workouts. I always say you should be a little bit scared of your workout. You should be a little bit like, oh right, okay.
Oh, maybe I need to start doing that.
It's almost like you want to. Maybe I should put it off till tomorrow. When you've got that feeling, and maybe I should put it off till tomorrow, then you should definitely do it. Because it's like it's gonna be hard, and you're gonna face it, overcome it, conquer it, all that sort of thing. But it's that. But then it's how do we stop that fear turning into that procrastination of saying, listen, I won't do it now, I'll do it tomorrow, and then not doing it. Or that fear holding you back from going for things like whether it's the job opportunity, whether it's getting into a relationship, whether it's leaving a relationship. That fear can hold you back and stop you there. I don't know how we manage that.
I wouldn't want to say this is how you definitely do it. I think it can be in the situations there is a kind of we talk a lot about arguing with ourselves. So if for some people it might be fear that someone's telling them they should be scared. For parents, you shouldn't do that because, or then if someone else is telling you to be scared, then you've got kind of reason in your own head or maybe take a chance to say, well, I'm going to do it anyway, which is scary. But a lot of the time it is about people's conversation, arguments with themselves. A lot of people in their own heads are telling them it's a battle going on inside. It's about how do you overcome that.
And that crosses over into doubt, because that's self-doubt. I think that conversation in the head is self-doubt. And that's quite a sabotaging factor. I mean, it's slightly separate to fear, but I think it's fueled by fear. Yeah, it's definitely linked. But I think, was it somebody told me once, is you'll never be better than the opinion you hold of yourself. And that opinion is often shaped in our childhood, I think. And like I say, if there isn't a domineering, overbearing figure, and somebody that tells you you're pretty useless as a child, then you can actually play that out. And you form this opinion of yourself that you won't let yourself get past. Yeah. Because that's who you are.
Yeah. And people know that as well. And people use it as a manipulation tool. Using fear and making someone doubt themselves is a way of controlling others.
Well, which is the other factor I was going to talk about, is relationships.
Fear factor, sorry. Yeah.
Fear, we could put that in.
That could be the title.
Yes. We could, talking about self-doubt and that argument you have in your head, but there's often also within relationships, somebody saying, you can't do that.
You can't do that,
You're useless, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And again, it stops
it's that drip effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people use it as because we know what works for us, and whether or people are aware of it, whatever. But definitely, if you listen to someone that's in an abusive relationship, their partner will not be building them up.
Yes,
their partner will use every opportunity to bring them down and make them doubt themselves. And even fear. Violence. Let's talk. Violence in relationships. It's all. These are things that can be used to manipulate and control us. So they're very kind of valuable weapons in many ways, that either we give control over to someone else or we do it to ourselves. And we all do it to a certain degree. And it's the difficult one, because I heard a really good phrase, the guy, the psychotherapist that I speak with as my clinical supervision, because part of the problem I always face is that, people come to me and they say, they need to overdo, and there are things that they need to sort of change a bit, but people like you're talking just beat themselves up, start spreading fear and doubt in their head, and so I normally explain it as you've got to appraise yourself. There's all bits about us we want to change and improve. But if you kind of use, I'm terrible at this, and you're just going to sink down into a hole. You get into that burden. I'm a burden. I'm useless. In your head, and you're like living with an abusive person. You're like, I'm so on it. So, but sometimes we're talking with someone else. Actually, you could. You could do without doing that behaviour, because it's making it worse. So in a way, there's that balance of saying, well, yes, you've identified a behaviour and something you're doing that really is not good for you, but you need to sort of appraise. So if you go to work, you have an appraisal. You go and see your boss or whatever, and they say, right, well, this is this is what you're doing well, but these are the areas you can improve. And you kind of need to do that with ourselves. And I think a healthy way of doing that is to go, right, there are bits that I do well, but there's bits that I want to improve. What's the best version of myself I want to be? Well, I'm going to praise myself. Well, if I could change, exercise, but eat a bit more better, I could do it, and I just, but rather than going, oh, you're fat, okay, you have to kind of, actually, I could do with losing a bit of weight. That's real. So you have to, or people, if you're doing something that you are someone, because let's be honest, in our work, we meet both people who have been are in abusive relationships from their partner doing it, but also we have perpetrators. And so
well, I think often that perpetration, as I've seen it, often that perpetration comes from a place of fear.
Yes.
If you're saying, so you're trying to put doubt in someone's mind, let's say, and you're saying, look, you're ugly, you're useless, you're fat, you're
all right, John.
I mean, this is
our
relationship. This is our relationship. Yeah, it's I was saying this.
Actually, we are horrible to each other.
Well, it starts now. I mean, listen to why it's no bother doing this podcast, because we did this. We're doing this in the office. So somebody's saying that, and is trying to, like you say, not build their partner up, but bring them down.
Yeah,
I think that's often driven by a fear of losing them.
Oh yeah, they don't want them to leave them.
Yeah, and
so if I tell them no one else will love you.
And it's also the self-doubt. Yeah, but it's that no one else loves you. It's like, and it's that self-doubt within themselves. Like you say, they can only think of themselves as, what they have inside them is quite low.
Yeah.
So their sense of self, and so their sense of self-worth is quite low. So they're thinking, well, if you're going out with me and I'm a scumbag,
you must, yeah.
Therefore, you're going to go out with anyone, and therefore, why would you love a scumbag like me? You must be a scumbag.
Yeah,
and so it's a sort of self-perpetuating cycle where their fear of and their self-doubt about themselves promotes them instilling fear and self-doubt in someone else.
Well, exactly. It's a good example. So in that example, it's like, mate, you can't be doing that.
Yeah.
And if you are doing it, there's an element that you are a bit of a scumbag.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of say, well, you don't want to be a scumbag, so don't be a fucking scumbag. You know, rather than, I'm such a scumbag, so I'm going to keep doing it. No, recognise that there's something about doing that makes you feel, and you're going to have to, because often what we're doing is identifying the areas people, in the work we do, identifying areas people are not happy about.
Yeah.
And then trying to help them see kind of a bit of light. And then that chink of luck, because often people coming into the service are asking, they're saying, I'm not the version of the person I want to be. Oh, what kind of person do you want to be? Well, I want to be like this and this. Well, what's getting in the way? Well, this is my drug use or the way. All right, well, let's go. Let's sort that stuff out.
There was a very interesting example you came to me with a while ago, and it was a lad who wanted to join one of the armed services. But I'd kind of completely given up on that idea for reasons I'm not sure about. So maybe you can say, and it was just your suggestion. Something changed.
Well, there's two things in that. So yeah, there's a guy who was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to kill myself, die by suicide, whatever, how the best way you want to say it. But in that sense, it seems to me, so okay, well, what if you could have your time again? What would you do? He's like, well, I'd go and do this job. All right, well, if you're going to give if everything's shit, you've got nothing, then you've got nothing to lose. Why don't you try applying for it and see what happens, and that. And so that was a moment really to say, oh, okay, there's a kind of, oh yeah, well, if I might as well try, I've got nothing to lose. He did, and he got accepted. I don't think he took up the offer in the end, but it's a good example which we do talk about, which is like, people, if that kind of moment where there's no point in it, but well, okay, all right, that's a really bad position to be in, but it can be an opportunity.
Yeah.
And often what we're doing is really, it's that kind of analogy of the Cornermen. It's the encourage people sometimes decide, they like we always say, people aren't stupid. They come and say, oh, this is what I would, right. It's just listening and really encouraging. It's that motivation. People just need a bit of a kind of, right, come on. They just need, come on, let's have it. You've got someone in your corner. Come on. There's that bit you want to change yourself. You can do it. Come on. Because it's always a journey, and it's always, because we stick with people rather than the 12 weeks or whatever. It's like we've known people for years now. Because I think people from the outside, they want a Disney story. They want, they go through this, and then there's a great ending. But it's life's ups and downs. So there'll be a great ending at that point, and then a few months down there or years or so, there's another track challenge. Or they might have not. So, and that's fear. As well, fear and doubt, and people even when they've accomplished something, I'm still fearful that might happen again, or I won't be good enough. So there's different stages of fears we go through. We get over one fear, and then, fucking hell, there's another one to go.
Yeah.
So.
Which I think, again, that analogy of the Cornermen works so well. I don't want to harp on about that all the time, but I remember literally boxing, and I had one of my coaches in particular was a very good ex-pro, very tough guy, like just walk the walk and live the life, and looked great even when he was training me, and I was, he was in his 50s, I suppose. And you are alone in that ring, and you get scared, and you see your opponent, everybody looks bigger, and it's oh my god. And then I would literally look at him, and I'd get confident. I'd say, well, he's with me. He's with me. This guy's in my corner. Yeah. And it gave me that confidence. And even like you could argue that it's silly because you've still got to do the fight yourself. But I knew he was there to go back to. Yeah. And having that. What I considered, I thought this is really cool.
And it comes a bit to like what we were talking about when we were beginning was fear. There's a lot of fear, but there's no encouragers. Yeah. There's no encouragers. I think we have lost, especially after COVID, we've lost a bit of community, and community is not like so people aren't interacting, and then there's this kind of fear. There's no what we're missing is the kind of characters who are right. Come on. We can all sort this out. You know, there's characters that want to, of all sides, of everywhere, everything you talk about, trying to be right and spreading fear. We need a few more characters going, look, we need to we've got some shit to sort out.
Yeah.
But let's use it as an opportunity to sort some shit out. And let's motivate and encourage and get it sorted. You know, there's so, you know, I think we're fear-driven society, and fear is, I agree, it seems a lot more prevalent. I'm seeing it a lot more. Everyone's scared of, you know, and we are bombarded with fear, and we always have been, but, you know, there doesn't seem to be many voices saying, right, come on.
Well, there's not many unifying voices, are there? There's a lot of polarising voices.
Yeah, exactly.
But there aren't many unifying voices. And I think it's like the famous, I think, Roosevelt speech, Teddy Roosevelt, and he said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. When he came across the country, you know, in the 30s, we were talking about an American president, you know, during the Great Depression, when people were very worried about, you know, jobs, food, all this sort of thing. And he did manage to be a unifier and say, look, you know, there's stuff bigger than your fear. Don't be scared. Pull together, and we can get a new deal, and we can move forward. And it worked. Yeah.
Who was the comedian? I was only watching it yesterday. Just a ride.
Oh, not Lenny Bruce.
No. We want to say Bill somebody.
Bill Hicks.
Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
There's a great of him. It's just a ride. He talks about fear. It's like, you know, it's a bit like we were saying about you've got nothing to lose. It's just a ride. Never be scared. And he talks about, if people can look it up, it's great. You know, the roller coaster goes up and down, and lots of people tell you to be scared.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then there's a great bit about the people who have come and said, don't be scared. We tend to kill those guys.
Yeah.
But he says, you know, at the end, it's kind of like, you know, let's, you know, sort this shit out. Then we can be unified and fucking explore space and live lovely. But it's a great quote. Bill Hicks is, if people are going, After School is a really great YouTube little thing with lots of different quotes. But Bill Hicks, It's Just a Ride. I really recommend people go and listen to that. I love it.
Yeah.
So, but that kind of goes on that we are bombarded with fear, you know, and we need to have an antidote to it.
Yeah.
We need to remember that, you know, we are just here for a flash.
Yes.
A lot of stuff we worry about really doesn't fucking matter in the long run. It's not going to vary when we are dead. We're here for a flash, you know, and we waste our time so much with little fears and doubts, and it heartbreaks. One of the things that really breaks my heart is when I hear people who are kind of maybe into their middle ages, shall we say, and they say, "Oh, I wish I'd have done such and such," and they really, you know, and they didn't do it because they were scared of how it was going to make them look.
Yeah. Or scared of failure.
Yeah.
And you think, and then I know it's a massive cliche, but it's better to have tried and failed than never tried at all.
Well, exactly, because with you, John, I mean, I might be wrong, but you don't tend to have much doubt. Maybe I'm measuring it, but you are quite self-confident, but that is great because, you know, I've always had. I take the mickey. I know that's a shock to people, but, you know, to go and do the music, because if you could have gone, oh, that fat fella I share an office with is going to take the piss out of me if I start singing. Well, he still does anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
well, the thing is, I knew that was going to happen anyway, and I knew that lots of people would take the piss. And it doesn't really bother me.
But yeah, well, that's great. I mean, I'm interested in how you do that because, you know, I think people could learn from that because you've spoke about that you wanted to do a band. You've always wanted to do it. And then you're in your 50s, so you could have gone, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. But, you know, you could have gone, look, I've had my time, really. I wish I'd have done a band. You could have done that. And I think most people would have done that. So it's interesting for me that I think it's a great example for you to say, no, do you know what? Fuck it. I don't care what people think. I'm going to go and do it, and I'm going to enjoy it. And it looks like you enjoy it, and you love it.
I love it. It's great,
you know, and it's brought people to the service, and, you know, it's a great little thing, and people, you really enjoy it, and band members I know enjoy it. We all enjoy it. So, but I think that's a really great example. So what? Is it just that you don't care what people think? Is it just your personality, or you're just a big lump? So if anyone does laugh at you, you know you can lay them out anyway.
I think there's a bit of insulation in my character in the sense that that self-doubt isn't massively there.
Yeah,
maybe. Some people would say I have an overinflated sense of self-importance.
Well, there's going to be good points and bad points, John. Yeah. You know, that's just the nature.
But that does insulate me a little bit from it. I mean, maybe I find my value and my self-worth in other places. That's never particularly bothered me.
Yeah,
and it just felt very right at the time, and it was something that I really felt kind of driven to do. And also I think it was because of my age was a motivating factor, because I think that had always kind of been there. And then it was almost like, do you realise this is the last chance?
Yeah, okay.
And I think when I started doing it, I didn't tell anyone I was doing it for a long, long time because just beavered away and kind of, because I just thought, if I tell people and then it comes to nothing, I'll feel like a proper Charlie. and I was also, I told you before that I did pick up the guitar when I was 17, 18, and then I played for a year and then put it away, and then always thought I'd pick it up again. And then occasionally I would pick it up drunk at parties and play a couple of tunes or that I could just barely remember.
I bet that was amazing.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. Was he says in that Bible movie, hey, I'll play the guitar at you.
Yeah, that's it.
But then I think this time it was that realization of mortality. Like, if you put that down again, that's it. This is your last chance to stick with it. And then, it takes a bit of going through when you to stick with something. You have to have a little discipline. You say, I'll do 20 minutes a day. And 20 minutes a day is hard to start with because it's boring. And it's just enough. Nothing doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And then you just keep going and keep going. And then all of a sudden 20 minutes flies by. And the next thing you know, you're doing an hour and 2 hours. And you know what I mean? So, but you've got to get over these hurdles first. And it's like,
so would you encourage people like, if say someone's coming into their 50s and that now, there's things they haven't done?
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
Massively. I mean, even my mum went to a jazz thing the other day, at the weekend, and the saxophone player was 86.
Oh, good on him.
And I saw a picture of, because I'm very into my Donegal heritage and all that sort
You've
of thing.
mentioned it once or twice, John.
Yes. So there's a community group, the Mulladuff community group, which on Facebook, the Mulladuff community group, and they put things up and they put happy birthday to this fella, and he was 85, stood on top of a mountain.
Oh,
where I like to go. Do you know what I mean? I was like, yes, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think absolutely. I think the thing is, if you say, oh, I can't do that, I won't do that, I'm too old. People say that in their 20s.
Yeah. And also, I think we worry too much what people are thinking.
Yes.
And sometimes I think people over worry that most people are just obsessed with themselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
there was that great quote, wasn't there? Like, in your 20s, you really, really care what everybody else is saying about you. In your 40s, you don't give a shit what anybody else is saying about you. And in your 60s, you realise nobody was saying anything about you at any time at all.
That's it, yeah. I think it's fear of what other people. It's like, so we have this kind of imaginary fear.
Yeah.
What will people think? Well, I don't know. If I do that, they're going to think this, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
We've just made that completely fucking up in our heads.
Yeah.
And then it's such a shame with like that Bill Hicks ride is that, we have got this, we're here for a flash, we've got one life, do some shit you like. That you wanted to do, try playing the guitar, and fear is such a restrictive, and doubt is just such a kind of restrictive of people of our lives.
And I think it's very much in your head. And like I said to you earlier about the it's the opinion that we have of ourselves that really matters. And if you've got a low opinion of yourself, you are constantly going to get that self doubt in your head. You're going to constantly, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do whatever. And also, again, looking from my age now, I'm 55 now. I mean, I look around. And I think, wow, there's loads of resources and there's loads of opportunities, much more so than I've ever known in my life. But people are treating it as if it's not. People are treating it as if there's no resources, no opportunities. And I find that strange. I'm not being actually critical of that because I think that's a much longer debate. I'm not going to say you don't know you're born at all. I'm just, there's much more in that. And I think it's a lot is to do with the inequality that we have in our society, which I think is the poison that really seeps in. But rather than the poverty, it's the inequality. But that's another discussion. But I just think there genuinely are lots of resources. There are lots of opportunities. But people are like, they don't almost want to sit there and go, everything's shit. Everything's fucking awful. Everything's falling apart.
You think that? I mean, that's probably.
If you say that long enough, it probably will.
Well, but if that's a constant stream of narrative that we're thrown.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
It'd be interesting because like we have people are growing up with the internet now that that's all they've known, and just the kind of constant bombard that you should be angry, you should be unhappy, you should be and so I suppose a kind of worry is that if we talk about the environments we grow up in, what's in our head, which is, we look to the people around us for, and if they are someone that tells us we're useless and we should be fearful and everything, that become, do we need to be a bit more kind of, psychologically aware about what society we're creating? Because if it's completely been always, if be fearful of them, be fearful of him, doubt them, don't trust that. It just is going to get, the fear is that it gets part of the character.
Well, it's also, I grew up in the 70s and I always walked to school. Always walked to school. From when I can remember, I think I can vaguely remember my mum picking me up from school, when I was like 6 or something. And other than that, I always walked to school, and it would be quite a long way. And I would call for my mates on the way and walk to school. And then my kids at primary school now, they're not allowed to turn up without an adult or leave without an adult that has been kind of pre-approved until year 6. So when they're nearly 11.
So I think,
and even then, they're not.
But again, down to fear. So there's the fear that some paedophile is just going to run off with them.
Yeah.
But also there's the fear that if some paedophile does run off with them, the school's going to get in trouble for it. So they have this fear where they have to have these implements in place just in case, because if something happens, they get in trouble, and then parents thinking, is that is that a possibility? It's just everyone's.
Yeah. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be worried about paedophiles, but I'm saying it is other steps we're taking commensurate with the risk.
I
don't know. And we're removing the freedoms. If we tell children that most strangers are, out to get them.
But then you would, so I think it is, when you first suggested fear and doubt, I was like, but fear, especially for some of the problems we're seeing, I think is a huge.
I think fear is underlying our society, and I don't know if it hasn't always underlined our society, but I just think it's.
Well, there hasn't been the
now,
mechanisms before to really kind of. There always has, I'd imagine, but now we've got the kind of technology and the mechanisms to really just ramp it up.
And like I said, I think our brain fastens onto the fear. I think we are programmed to look for the fear, look for the danger, because you're trying to guide yourself against the danger. But I think, I think also the fear is manifesting itself at the moment in almost a bit of an incoherent rage, which I'm not sure where that's coming from. And it almost seems to be more than a justifiable fear. It seems to be almost a desire to me to just turn the table over and just smash things up and see what happens. I want to make something happen. And it's like when you're saying, but look, you've got all these opportunities. You're wealthier than you've ever been. You're safer than you've ever been. You've got all these opportunities, all these leisure opportunities, which we have as a society. If you all look at it that way, but it's how people feel that is important. They don't feel that. They're not feeling that at all. And like I say, I go back to the inequality there. But I think, there must be a reason people are not feeling this. And they're feeling disenfranchised. They're feeling unempowered. They're feeling ignored. They're feeling left behind. They're feeling all this. And it's fueling fear and it's fueling anger.
Well, I think, unfortunately, in the last few centuries or so, there has been other periods where that has... and we don't, unfortunately, I don't think we tend to learn. We learn for a bit. And then there's a new cycle of humans that come through living on and some of the old way people act rears their head. And I think, we've lost a generation where they in this country, where they had experienced war and they'd experienced what happens when you start dividing or you start hating certain types of people. They'd lived it.
Yeah.
Now those guys are gone. Those people that can say that now there's not those voices. No one in this country has kind of experienced what they went through now. But everyone kind of harps back to them as well as, we look at the war through very rose-tinted, when we talk about lack of fear, people were petrified.
But they were petrified, but there was a unifying purpose in what everybody was doing. Everybody was together, kind of pulling in the same direction to whatever extent, whether they're on the beaches at D-Day or whether they were just at home trying to, give their stockings up or whatever. Everybody's pulling in the same direction. That was a unifying thing, and it was a purpose. I mean, funny enough, I watched Fight Club this weekend.
Did you?
Yes.
Are we allowed to talk about it? Hey!
What's that, 25 years old now?
Yeah, I know.
25,
oh, don't say that, John. I'm
25,
fearful.
30 years old. So you're fearful about your age.
Yeah.
But yeah, great film. And my 14-year-old Jack got into it and he was like, Dad, this film's amazing. You got to watch it. So he said, so we watched it all together. But I think there's a great line in that, bearing in mind that's a generation ago now. But he said, we have no great war. We have no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives. And it was a kickback against materialism. That's what the point of the movie was, to try and find something, to find a common purpose, to find some meaning. But I think, there is a message in there. We haven't had that great war. We haven't had that great depression. No. Well, maybe something
John
will do, I don't know.
No,
John calls for war on podcast. It'll make everybody happier.
But and some of that of what causes, the horrific things we saw, and still goes on. But division is never going to bring about what people want.
No. Well, this is the question. What do people want? Because materially, we are definitely better off than we were. Materially, we're definitely better. Better off the last generation, the generation before. You can argue about that in terms of intergenerational wealth and the amount of property that's owned by older people, and all that sort of stuff. But essentially, we're living in much more comfort, and we are living with much more than we ever have been. But we're probably more unhappy than we ever were.
More fearful.
So maybe that wasn't what we actually wanted.
No. Yes.
There you go. So maybe the next podcast, I think we've done fear and doubt now, could be, what do we actually want?
Yeah.
And if we can nail that, we'll make a fortune. We won't just release that for free on YouTube, by the way. That will be behind a paywall.
Yeah, if we find the secret, we're definitely not giving it away for free.
No.
Why would you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, world harmony, posture.
On fear and doubt, we'll just leave people with the doubt that we're not telling them what the secret to life is, so they'll have to wait for the next podcast on the paywall.
Well, yes, they've got to find that for themselves.
Yeah. So we'll be back next month, Steve.
Yes. Yes, we will be, yes. Sorry, I drifted off there for a moment.
There's all those fears. All those fears coming into your mind.
I'm fearful.
Or was it a doubt that we won't be here next month?
Well, that's it. Yeah. Well, fearful of what? Yeah. What subject? Of
We'll come up with something 5 minutes before the show.
You've put a lot of pressure on it now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Going to iron out what people want.
Yeah. Yeah. What do people want? Right. All right.
Right. Yes. Sorry. We'll call it a day. Yeah. Cheers, John. Cheers, Marky.
Cheers, Steve. Cheers, Marky.